What up? What up? What up, everybody? What's going on? So, earlier we were talking about the what are these things? The Epstein files, and I told you all that they were not going to come out, that they were not going to be released. Well, they did release some stuff, but they didn't release everything. Now, here's the deal. They were supposed to release everything today, but what they did is they started releasing some stuff, but then they released a whole bunch of redactions. So they're saying that they released it 1% of what they were supposed to release, because a lot of the stuff they released, we don't even know what it is. They have redacted a lot of pictures. They showed us pictures, but the pictures that we know, which is Jeffrey Epstein, the purpose of this entire Epstein probe, or trove, should I say, is because people wanting to know who was affiliated with Jeffrey Epstein. And just like I told y'all, we did not get it. We didn't get it.
Flood of material related to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein is now coming from the U.S. Department of Justice. But as the DOJ previously warned, this is a partial release. Even more will be coming.
The House and/or the Senate could go to the courts and move to find the Department of Justice and the officials therein, ask the court to find them in contempt. But just like any subpoena that is served on someone, if I have been served with a subpoena for documents and I'm doing my best to comply within the 30 days or the time frame, if I'm trying in good faith to comply and I'm not able to because there's so many documents, I think a court's going to give me a pass.
And Todd, Blanche, his reasoning with the delay of releasing these files is that there's so much redaction that has to happen because the stories and the names of victims of Jeffrey Epstein, they're in those files and they're working to protect them.
So it's like the same situation. It's excuse after excuse. So we did not get everything. They did get a whole bunch of redactions. And like I said, they're predicting that they got 1% of the files. Now, we can kind of get into some of what was released, but again, a lot of what was released was pictures of Jeffrey Epstein. Like the last thing we really needed was a picture of Jeffrey Epstein, because we are fully aware of who he is. Okay, we didn't need to see another picture of him. So let me kind of give you guys an example. Can y'all see that? This is what was pretty much released. Pictures of Jeffrey. We didn't need to see no more damn pictures of Jeffrey. Oh boy, says I'm not a robot. Another picture of Jeffrey. Women, their faces is, blotted out. Let's see. So a bunch of this is Jeffrey. Again, more of Jeffrey. There were other pictures, but they were all blotted out to the point that you could not make out who was in these pictures. And this is kind of what I'm saying. We can kind of go through these, but again, a lot of these are just Jeffrey Epstein. The good pictures, they did not, they released them, but they redacted them so much that you didn't know who were in those pictures. Remember, the whole purpose of this Jeffrey Epstein is they want to know who these rich people that were around Jeffrey that seemingly knew what was going on. And here's Ghislaine. Like, these are all people that we already know about. And then they still didn't release them all. Again, Ghislaine, we already know who she is. Jeffrey, more pictures of Jeffrey. So they played in our faces. I mean, they could have kept the pictures of Jeffrey. We already know how he looked. These are pictures of Jeffrey. So I kind of knew something like this was going to happen. More of Jeffrey and Ghislaine, and then, of a lady. We don't know who this lady is, but, Jeffrey was already, charged, convicted or whatever. But we wanted to know who was the other people, which we didn't get. Oh, and of course, they showed you a picture of Bill Clinton because Bill Clinton is a Democrat. Like, this has nothing to do with the Democrats or the Republicans, but for some reason, they want to keep showing us the picture of Bill. Again, Jeffrey and Ghislaine. So I just feel like, we didn't get anything. Let's see, is it 72? And then I don't know who these guys are. Have no idea who these men are. So this is pretty much, like I said, I've kind of went through a lot of these, and it's, you know, this is kind of what they're showing us, giving us. And then, as I stated before, they have stated that they are not done. You know, they claim that they have to, we know that they have to redact it, but from what they've released, they've redacted the entire document. So, I mean, if you got to dang on live. Okay, I'm sorry about that. So yeah, I kind of went out of the live, my fault. So let me get back into sharing my screen. So what I was saying is they pretty much redacted everything, and they were supposed to redact victims, but we got, they redacted everything. So this is pretty much y'all what they gave us. A bunch of pictures, obviously they put Bill Clinton. They want us to see Bill Clinton. Okay, they've showed us a picture of Bill Clinton, but not really showing us anything else. It's loads of pictures from this release, but nothing to the tune that I think we were, looking or hoping to see, or I don't even know if hoping to see is correct. The victims have stated, just so guys, we're on the same page. The victims have stated that there were a certain amount of men. I don't remember the exact amount, but they said that these were very powerful men that knew a lot of information, and that these men knew what was happening to them. Now, what they're doing is they're going to be working with the lawyers of the victims to kind of get that information, because they didn't release it. Of course, we're still waiting with Jeffrey Epstein's estate, and they are releasing documents, but it's just taking forever. So, I mean, we can go through all of these pictures, but essentially we didn't receive anything. Nothing was released. These are pictures of, they released everything that I guess they wanted us to see, and the rest we just not seeing until we get it from the estate. But specifically, what they said is the victims named about, I don't remember if it's 15 to 20 specific rich white men that were around. And they're saying that these particular men knew what was happening to them and did absolutely nothing. Now, these are the men that they're wanting to see in these pictures. And I guess they kind of feel like when you get into the redactions, a lot of, those faces were redacted. So we didn't get much, but I don't know if you guys are surprised, because I'm not. I mean, there's really not much to see here. But is this a problem for Donald Trump and his administration? I would say yes, because I feel like, I mean, if they thought that they were not going to be able to release these files, why are we waiting until the last day?
We are sifting through them now, and we're going to bring you what we find as we and our teams find it throughout this hour. Let's get off the sidelines and head into the arena. My panel is here, and we're joined by CNN crime and justice correspondent Caitlin Polantz and CNN senior White House correspondent Kristen Holmes. Caitlin, first to you. I know that our teams are digging through these files. Is there anything you can tell us so far about what we've learned?
It's called the Epstein Library, that's being released by the Justice Department. And Casey, it does include quite a lot of different types of materials about Jeffrey Epstein, some of which is already out there and some of which is very likely to have never seen the light of day before. The categories right now that the Justice Department is saying they're releasing the records on, and they have them all available for the public to view. That includes court records, Freedom of Information releases, some of the things that have already been out there, as well as documents that the House Oversight Committee has obtained and has been releasing, as well as the big part of this, the Justice Department's own disclosures. I'm looking at it now, and it's really extensive. There's multiple pages here. There's a lot of different lists of what's being put out in the public view. Some of that includes Epstein files that are being required by this law to be transparent by today. it looks to me like there are very large files here, data sets of information, and also some things we haven't seen before. Things we have seen before, things like video from the Bureau of Prisons from when Jeffrey Epstein was in that facility, as well as audio of Ghislaine Maxwell speaking to the Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche, earlier this year in a taped interview. So all of that is collected. We are going to be looking through it to see what's new. But Casey, I was just reviewing what is already out there. There is a great deal already out there, but what is in this is also likely to be very sensitive. Even just in reading the end of the trial against co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell, there is extensive discussion about the victims and how severe these crimes were. Girls as young as 14 being recruited from single family homes largely to become people that Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein were both grooming through enticing them to be massage therapists or.
Now, just wanted to stop it right there. So based on what we know Jeffrey Epstein was in jail for and all of the information that came out to convict him, those are, kind of what they're looking for in these pictures. And as of what they have right now, it just seems like they're not there, which is very odd considering that, a lot of this was information that they used to convict him. And now all of a sudden, those pictures are nowhere to be found. Well, one of the good parts of this entire situation is Jeffrey Epstein's estate also has files, and they are working with Jeffrey Epstein's estate too to make sure that whatever was redacted wasn't redacted in an effort to hide certain people, because let's be honest, these people are disgusting people, and they do things to children. We don't care what they're, we don't care if they're a Democrat or Republican. We don't care. We just want to know. And they're thinking that that is probably what happened here. And also what they're saying is that if these files was redacted in an effort to hide, somebody, political opponent, or maybe a Donald Trump or whoever, that there's going to be serious consequences, including conviction. Donald Trump ain't going to be the president forever. This is what happened to him last time.
To be the recipients of massages, and there is extensive evidence already out there in the public record as to how great and vast this conspiracy went, how it existed over many, many years. In addition to that, I'm also looking for especially how the Justice Department has handled Epstein and Maxwell in the 20-some years of knowing that this conspiracy existed until Maxwell was convicted of crimes in 2021. That is something that we haven't seen a full autopsy of. We've seen bits and pieces of it, but seeing exactly how those choices were made, how the internal communications may have played out within the Justice Department to choose not to prosecute Jeffrey Epstein very severely in 2007 or 2008, and then to choose to indict him and Ghislaine Maxwell again in 2019, 2020, 2021. Those are all things to look for in these records. It's going to be a long night, and as the Justice Department has made clear, today is not the only day of this release. There could be many more documents to come for weeks ahead. Casey?
Which is a problem, because the order and the law, because they actually created a law and everything around this, they were supposed to release this today. So there's no back and forth about they didn't have enough time. There should have been some kind of follow-up. What they're saying is that this administration refused to provide any type of follow-up. Maybe if it was a situation where, they felt like they couldn't get the job done, maybe to let somebody know and say, hey, whatever the situation was, but this didn't happen. So it just really seems like another possibly cover up. We're just trying to cover up these billionaires because we don't want to put our richest white men out here to take responsibility for something that they did.
Weeks indeed. Kristen Holmes, to that point, how has the White House been bracing for this?
The White House doesn't want to talk about this. They have been doing everything they can for the last several months to try and distance themselves from the story, but it is the story that they just cannot shake.
The White House don't want to talk about it, which is the problem, because if they would have kept some form of, communication, maybe let, those people on the other side know what was going on, maybe they wouldn't have this problem. So it just looks like that this is another wrench that was through in an effort to not be forthcoming with information. That's what it looks like.
And now we're looking at day one of what is expected to be a brand new chapter in the entire Epstein saga, now that we have these documents. And this is going to continue for time and time again, because the fact that it will involve President Trump in some way. Now, one of the things I hear from these White House officials, they are convinced that there is not going to be some kind of smoking gun in these documents that show President Trump did something illegal. They have argued to me time and time again that if there was something like that in these files, that it would have been brought out a long time ago, particularly under a Democratic administration. However, they are also keenly aware that anything, any document, any part of these files that shows or it reinforces the relationship President Trump had at one time with Jeffrey Epstein is likely to dominate any media coverage. It's going to eclipse anything else that President Trump is trying to do or is actually doing. And they have no appetite for this. And there's also someone else who has no appetite for this, and it's President Trump. And that was very clear when he was asked questions or when he was delivering remarks earlier today. And a man who almost always takes questions did this at the end of it.
Well, let's get into it. So on the day that the Epstein files are supposed to be released, Donald Trump is doing these press conferences talking about nothing but lying as always. But what a coincidence. He doesn't want to take nobody can ask him questions, at least today, because he doesn't want to be held accountable for this scam that they just did today when they said, listen, we don't have all the files. So let's get into janky scam president, felon, 34-time felon president, Donald Trump.
I really don't want to soil it up by asking questions, even questions that are very fair questions that I'd love to answer. So I think we have to just stop right here. I don't want to be asking questions having to do with anything else. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you about your insurance idea, Mr. President.
Again,
well, that was fast. He ran the hell up out of there because he doesn't want to answer any questions and he doesn't want to be held accountable, like always.
This is a White House, this is a president who is very aware of what is happening today with regards to the Epstein files being released. So it certainly seems like he did not want to have any part of that when reporters in the room were certainly going to ask questions.
They certainly were. All right, Kristen Holmes, Caitlin Polans, I think you'll likely be standing by for us as we sift through all of this, but I do appreciate your reporting here off the top. Ellie Honig is with us from New York as well. He's our senior legal analyst. Ellie, can you remind us how we got here? And I actually, I'd like to kind of set you up with what Ro Khanna, one of the congressmen on the House Oversight Committee, had to say today about what we may see here. And, obviously they have been going through these documents to redact sensitive information about victims and other things. Let me show you what Khanna said and we'll talk about it on the other side. Take a look.
Anyone who tampers with these documents or conceals documents or engages in excessive redaction will be prosecuted because of obstruction of justice. We will prosecute individuals regardless of whether they're the attorney general or a career or political appointee.
So what these people need to understand is Donald Trump he will not be president forever. So you trying to protect a man that's going to leave the White House and he's old as hell. So he going to go on about his life. Hopefully he make it. But at the end of the day, they're going to go back and see who was responsible for what and why did they do it? Why did they redact certain things? And they're going to be prosecuted. Like this is just like the same thing what happened to Donald Trump in his first term. He left the White House and what did he do? He got a conviction, 34, and then he had those other charges. So it's like these people are crazy for participating in illegal activities because they're going to come for you.
Ellie, can I just get you to, give us your legal expertise on what that could mean?
Sure. So we're here, Casey, because Congress passed a law, overwhelming margin, 427-1 in the House, unanimous in the Senate, signed by Donald Trump 30 days ago. That law gave the Justice Department 30 days to turn over, and I quote the law, all of DOJ's documents relating to the investigations and prosecutions of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Now, the law does have some exceptions in it. It allows DOJ to withhold documents if they relate to victim identities, if they relate to ongoing criminal investigations, or if they might undercut our national security or our foreign diplomacy. Now, as to Representative Khanna's point there, it would be obstruction of justice if somebody, for example, destroyed evidence or altered it or tampered with it intentionally. There's no evidence any of that has happened at this point. So I think he's thinking sort of speculatively and into the future. So at this point, they've made the first production. That's the link that's now available that Caitlin Polance and others are going through. But again, important to note, the Deputy Attorney General this morning, Todd Blanche, said this is actually not the whole production. He said this will be hundreds of thousands of pages, and we will continue to produce more over the coming weeks. Technically, that's not what the law says. The law says all the documents today, but DOJ apparently has just not been able to do that.
The law says all of the documents today. Again, they're not following the law. Even if it was a situation where they knew that they were not going to get it done, they should have let somebody know. But because this is like, hey, we're going to let them know at the last minute because we really don't want to release the files. This is another wrench being thrown because they simply don't want to release the files. They rather protect men, white men that are hurting children because they said that those girls were underage. Okay. And this is really disgusting that we have a president in the White House who's protecting somebody like this.
Remarkable. Ellie, stand by for me. I want to go back to Caitlin Polance because she has been poring over these documents as we have been talking. And Caitlin, I understand you're seeing some photographs as part of this. I don't think we're prepared yet to show them to our audiences. We're working on that, but please do tell us what you've learned.
Yeah, and we're also going to be cautious about describing what's in the photographs as we're seeing them, given the sensitivities, so many sensitivities around this issue. But what I can say here is in the data sets that are being put out by the Justice Department, there are many, many photos. And they are stripped of context. They are just images. Many of them do show Jeffrey Epstein, of course. They would be from the files around him. There are also images of Ghislaine Maxwell. But this is the sort of thing that people will be clicking on, seeing, that you'll see around as people go photo by photo. I mean, some of these, there's clearly hundreds of them. They're posted in dozens of pages of data on the Justice Department website, and they don't say where they're from, why they were taken, where the location of the photos are. So a lot of those context clues, that's the sort of reporting and questions that we'll need to follow up on in understanding what the meaning of these photos might be. But it's not just photos. There are other documents as well. Some of them, like I mentioned before, are going to be the sorts of things we've seen already out in the public sphere. A lot of the audio tape and the documents around Ghislaine Maxwell speaking with Todd Blanche while she is serving her time in federal prison. Some of the documents of the communications from the Attorney General saying that she wants to have a release of the documents, something that has dogged the Justice Department over many months this year. But there is data here, and it does appear that there is information that's coming out from the Justice Department that is new. Exactly what that is, we're going to report and look very closely at what it is. But there's a lot here, and it's accessible to the public.
Okay, guys, what do you think with regards to this entire Epstein? We still don't have all of the files. Again, I just feel like they're not being very upfront. And I mean, we should not be here after months of this being something that they knew that they had to do. And then also Donald Trump ran his whole campaign on releasing these Epstein files only to get in office and do the total opposite of what he promised to do when he ran for president. Now, some more information that we're getting is some of the victims are speaking out and they don't seem to be very upset with how this is being handled.
And her sister survived Epstein's abuse. She's now a licensed psychologist. Also joining us is Lauren Hirsch, the National Director for World Without Exploitation. Annie, this is a heavy day, a momentous day, but a heavy day, a heavy week. How are you feeling?
There was a lot of anxiety coming into today for many of us survivors and that have been involved in this process. But I have to say, it has been an emotional day in a way that I was not expecting. You know, my sister, Maria Farmer, reported Epstein and his crimes in 1996. We've been saying that over and over again. And part of what was released today was an official FBI form, and I think it was an FT 71, dated September 3rd, 1996, with my sister's, some of my sister's report. It was labeled under child pornography, and it described Epstein stealing photos of myself at the age of 16, of my younger sister, who was 12 at the time. And just to see it in writing and to know that they had this document.
Now we're going to sit up here and act like this is not real. She is a victim and she's telling her story, but yet we have Donald Trump and his entire administration acting like this is some kind of damn hoax. This is ridiculous.
This entire time. And how many people were harmed after that date? It just, you know, we've been saying it over and over, but to see it in black and white that way has been very emotional. I'm with Maria today. I know she felt a tremendous amount of relief and redemption, but also sorrow in thinking about, you know, people like Virginia Roberts Giuffre who are not here to see this and be a part of really forcing the government to be transparent finally about this case.
So Annie, I mean, I'm just so people know what this is, the document that you're talking about. It is the 1996 complaint that your sister made to the FBI about Epstein. She alleged that he stole nude and partially nude photographs of her underage sisters, constituting child pornography. And as we know, law enforcement failed to act on that complaint in 1996. She's followed up on this. She sued in response. You've sued over what you experienced. Maria, in a statement.
1996, this man was reported. Why come nobody did anything? Probably because he's a rich white man, because he was reported in 1996 for having a child picture, nasty picture. Y'all know what I mean. I can't say it on YouTube, but he reportedly stole pictures of children. And he was reported and nothing was done about it. Perhaps if they would have did something back then, we would be having a different situation now.
Has said, this is amazing. Thank you for believing me. I feel redeemed. This is one of the best days of my life. Of course, it's mixed with the fact that I'm devastated about all the other little girls like Virginia who were harmed because the FBI didn't do their job. I'm crying for two reasons. I want everyone to know that I'm shedding tears of joy for myself, but also tears of sorrow for all the other victims.
Also, it is about 523 people on my Politics with Lakeisha page. Guys, if you have not subscribed, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button. I certainly appreciate it. And make sure you guys are liking the video.
That the FBI, looking at this document, and I can feel, I'm sure, just a fraction of the emotion you feel, because you think of, like, if only they took this seriously, how many innocent girls would not have been harmed if only they took this seriously. But it is vindication. It is something, right, Annie?
Oh, it's huge. Yeah. I mean, and I still have big questions about whether it was, you know, did they not take it seriously, or were they protecting Epstein because of whatever relationship he had with the government, right? Like, there's just so many questions, and why we hope for, again, more transparency. But yes, this is really, really significant to many of us.
It reminds me also of the young woman who went to the FBI and complained about Dr. Larry Nassar at Michigan State, who was molesting all those gymnasts and was also not taken seriously.
Now, did you guys hear the part where she said that Epstein had some kind of relationship with the government? Now, I don't know what that relationship was, but do you guys see how it seems like Jeffrey Epstein was, look, it seems like he was protected because, I mean, he was reported. Why was something not done about this? Like, this should not be happening. But when you're rich, you're white, and you're a male, this is what happens.
Think of all the pain that could have been avoided. Annie, some of your fellow survivors have not been happy with the way that the Democrats on the House Oversight Committee have been releasing information and photographs, not necessarily with enough of a heads up for the survivors, sometimes with context, important context missing, et cetera. I imagine it's kind of triggering to not be given proper warning. What have you been hearing from other survivors about the way that these documents have been released by Democrats on House Oversight?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say actually I'd like to speak more broadly because I think that it's similar to how things were released today. You know, just the government, I'd say, has not done a good job of communicating with victims throughout this process. You know, we did not know what to expect from today. I don't think it would have been difficult from someone from the DOJ to reach out to prepare us a little bit more about how this was planned to be rolled out, but we had no information and we are literally just learning of things like everyone else. And that also is true for, you know, some of the things that have come from the House Oversight Committee, and there has been communication, and I think they have made some efforts to try and rectify those processes because, yeah, it is triggering. And there's just a way in which it's hard to focus on anything right now with all of this going on. I think many of us are feeling, you know, really on edge and worn out. It's, you know, we have regular lives. People are trying to, you know, go to doctor's appointments, take care of children, you know, do regular life holiday things. And it's just a serious weight to always, you know, not know what's coming next. So,
which is kind of crazy being that these are victims. Why is, you know, Donald Trump's administration is not communicating with them, at least telling them what to expect? I'll tell you why, because he doesn't give a damn. He doesn't care about these people. He doesn't care that they're victims. I mean, he was friends with Jeffrey Epstein. He doesn't care about them. Sad to say, but it's the truth.
I think, you know, there are things like victims advocates for a reason. I know the government employs them. I don't understand why no one is using them right now.
I hope you feel the support of the American people behind you, Annie, because so many of us are just behind you all the way. Lauren, how do officials in Congress and the Justice Department strike the right balance when it comes to protecting the survivors and their identities, while also releasing as much information about this case as possible to the public? Because some of the documents we're seeing released are just 100 pages of redaction. And obviously, I don't want the names of survivors released, but like 100 pages of redaction, that's a lot.
It sure is, Jake.
I want to kind of jump into the redactions because if you guys have been on the video from the time it started, that was one of the things that I said. They have released the files, but when you have redacted damn near everything on there, what was the purpose of releasing it? They are literally redacting entire pages. They were supposed to redact names of victims, not the entire pages. And this is a problem because why in the hell provide a page with nothing on it? They have clearly redacted the entire page. Now, what has happened in Congress is they're supposed to provide an explanation for everything that they redacted. Now, I don't know how they're going to justify redacting an entire page when the only people that they are supposed to be concerned about is the victims. Now, I doubt that the victim's name is in all of these pages, word after word after word. And that is what, you know, what is his name? Representative Rohana, I think is his name. He was saying that they're going to look to possibly charge people for overly redacting this information because they kind of feel like it is a cover up, because there's no way that all of these pages should be redacted. So you're telling me that there's just nothing but victim's name in all of these pages, word for word? That wouldn't make any sense. So this doesn't add up. A lot of what they release are simply redactions. And if you look in the corner, it says redacted to protect potential victim information. Well, that could not be true, because what you're saying is that the victim's name was on each and every word. So let's say the victim name was Tina Snow. So it says Tina Snow, Tina Snow, Tina Snow, Tina. That would not make sense. So these people don't have any type of brain. The only thing they were supposed to redact is the victim's name, not anything else. So I doubt that the victim's name is repeatedly on this page, one after the other.
I think the survivors have been really clear about what they want to see. I think they have said that they want all of the files released and they want redactions for victim identifying information. That's very different than document after document after document of full redactions. And
that's what I just said. Hello. I'm glad she's on the same page that I'm on, because you don't have to be, you can be stupid to understand this. How are you redacting the entire document? You are simply only supposed to redact the victim's names. That is it. So the fact that they're redacting the entire page it really seems like they're trying to cover up something, because again, we're not redacting Bill Clinton. I'm just using Bill Clinton because they showed him that he was there. We're not redacting Donald Trump. We're not redacting anybody unless the victim, whoever the victims are, because there's no reason that they should be re-traumatized. This is not what this is all about. But to redact entire pages, these folks, the Trump administration, they're up to some shit here.
They also want to see the names of people who have caused harm on both sides. They don't care if they're names of people who represent the left, the right, the center. They don't care. For them, this is not about politics. This is about pain, and this is about people. And so it's really time to expose those who've caused tremendous harm and begin holding them accountable.
And I like that she said that, because this is not about the Democrats. This is not about the Republican. This is about the victim. So they are the only people that should be redacted. We're not sticking up for rich white men. I mean, we're not sticking up for the rich black ones either, but we know there was no black ones, honey. The rich white men, we not sticking up for y'all. If you were in there, we need to know who you are. But the issue here is Donald Trump is running a PEDO protection program.
Lauren Hurst, thank you for your presence and your advocacy. Annie Farmer, to you and your sisters, I mean, sending you all the love and support from me and my staff here at CNN, as we have. Thank you, and I hope you're able to have a Merry Christmas. The co-author of legislation requiring the Epstein Files release, Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna of California, says he's, quote, disappointed with what the Justice Department has made public today, which is not all of the files. His Republican counterpart, Congressman Thomas Massie, agrees, posting on X just moments ago, that the release, quote, grossly fails to comply with both the spirit and the letter of the law, unquote. Joining us now, Democrat from California and the ranking Democrat on the House Oversight Committee, Congressman Robert Garcia. So, Congressman, you posted on X.
Now, let's kind of get into who some of these people are. So a lot of, some of these ones that's going to interview, like this one here, they kind of work together to kind of come up with this legislation to make sure these files were released. Not only did they come up with that, one of the things they have to do is, after the files is released in 15 days, they have to come and testify. And for everything that they redacted, they're supposed to provide an explanation. Like, let me give you an example. If you see all of those pages that the whole pages are redacted, right? They have to show up and tell what was in those pages and why they were redacted. Now, they put on there it's victims' names, which makes no sense, because there would not be a whole page of victims' names, because it just wouldn't make no damn sense. Now, there could be a mention of a victim when what they would do is just blot out the victim's name, but to redact the entire pages shows that they're trying to cover up something else.
Saying that you and your team are doing a major review of the documents, adding, quote, it's clear that this is not a full release. What stands out to you of what's been released or what has not?
Well, first, I think we should be very clear. This is absolutely breaking the law. I mean, they have not produced actually what they were required to do, which was all the files by today in a way that was searchable for the public. And that is not what's the case. What we have essentially is, one, we have a group of documents that have already been released to the public. And so there's could be even more than half the documents we're reviewing right now have already been released. This includes court documents. It includes public video that's already been released to the public. It includes other civil case documents that are in there, the prison footage from Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell's testimony. And all of that information, including about 33,000 pages that were initially released to the Oversight Committee, are all in the public record. That already does not count for new information. Then we have what appears to be new, including some photos and other documents. Those are highly redacted. And we don't really have any explanation as to why they've been redacted or what is actually there in those documents.
Hello, guys. So it looks like we are all on the same page. We're talking about these documents again. There's too many redactions on here. So this is a problem because, again, we are only redacting victims. We're not redacting Bill Clinton. We're not redacting Donald Trump. We're not redacting anybody else. We don't care if they're Republican. We don't care if they're Democrat. If they are not a victim, we are not redacting those names. So why is these documents heavily redacted like this? This is not what they were supposed to do. And also, what he's saying is, and I didn't actually know this, the documents that they released had already been released. Like, these are documents that were all a part of the court file. What he is saying is what they were supposed to release is the documents that nobody has access to. So now I have to say that then they really didn't release what we really thought that they released.
Documents. And so we have right now, what we're seeing is not transparency. This is not what the law passed. This does not meet the subpoena that the Oversight Committee has in place. What it is defying the Congress and, quite frankly, defying what the president signed into law in releasing all of these files. And so the review will continue. They're now saying they're going to try to get these documents over the next few weeks.
Over the next few weeks. That's a stretch right there. Over the next few weeks. Donald Trump and his administration don't follow the law. They do whatever the hell it is that they want to do. Now, although the documents were supposed to be provided today, they gave y'all some damn documents that was already part of a court file and said, we'll release them suckers over the next couple of weeks. This is a total disregard for the law.
Initial estimation, and again, this is our estimation right now. It could be that we're only getting about 10% of what the DOJ likely has. And of that 10%, 5% of that has already been released, and the other 5% is highly redacted. So we're getting very little so far. We hope to get more in the days ahead. But this is Pam Bondi. Donald Trump should release all the files today and immediately.
There's a lot that's been redacted. The White House seems to be arguing that what's been redacted is just to protect the names of the survivors.
Look, I think we have to obviously see what the redactions actually are. At the end of the day, redacting names of survivors and victims absolutely should be the case, and I'm hopeful that they've done that in a way that's responsible. At the same time, we don't know what else is being redacted there. And so we've got to also talk to folks that we know have worked to put these documents together. We have to ensure they're not just redacting the names of those that could have been either co-conspirators or names of men who have abused women and girls.
Okay, now we're on the same page. We want to make sure that they're actually redacting victims, which according to these documents, it wouldn't make sense because you would have to have some substance. It shouldn't be victim after victim after victim, because then what would you be saying? Like, what are you saying? So you're saying that you got 100 pages of victims? I don't think that's the case. Now, I'm sure there are some victims in there, but it seems like whatever the story is that is being told related to those victims is what's being redacted because they don't want us to know.
So that information is going to be critical in the days and the weeks ahead. But we also need to be clear at this moment. I've been on the phone with Jamie Raskin and the Judiciary team most of the day. And we agree, we're going to likely have to take legal action if the Trump administration continues to stonewall, continues to not provide us full transcripts, and clearly they don't have a real interest in transparency. The searchable bar that they've included that's supposed to be searchable for the public is not even functioning correctly. And so this is not a real release. This is continuing a cover-up that's been going on now for months.
And I have to agree, he ain't lying, because let me show you guys. I went to the Department of Justice myself, and this link that they have up here is full of SHIT. Here it is. So they have a bunch of different files here, and I think we left off down here. So again, these are just pictures of Jeffrey Epstein. Nothing really to see here. More pictures of Jeffrey Epstein. The file does seem a little bit corrupt. I mean, it's working a little bit now, but it seemed like they should have this more like, in a zip file. So it's kind of very difficult to manage because it's like a 1 by 1 by 1. So it's not easily accessible. In the way that they have this on here, it's a mess. So can you see if you guys get, okay, so you guys can see my screen. So this is what they have, and it's just a bunch of different documents. Pictures, different pictures. And like I said earlier, these are pictures of, Ghislaine and Jeffrey. So there's nothing to see here. There's nothing, out of the ordinary that, I mean, we would. And give me a second. I don't know what just happened here of Jeffrey and Ghislaine, but we're not seeing anything else. I got to share my screen again, y'all. Okay. So these are more pictures here. And again, it's just the format is really kind of messed up because I don't know why they have these 1 by 1. And it's really not a whole bunch to see. And then this is no produced images. This is a mess. This is a mess. StreamYard is acting up. Okay, so let me share my screen again. The documents that they have provided, if they want to call them pictures, it's just there's really not nothing to see here. So again, these are pictures of Ghislaine. Nothing to see here again. Now, if you guys have not subscribe to the channel, please make sure you go ahead and do that. We're trying to get to 1,000. We're at 996. I would appreciate it if you guys could go ahead and subscribe, and please. Oh my goodness, just keeps kicking me out for whatever reason. So let's look at more pictures, but again, they're pretty generic, the same old stuff. I don't know who this guy is. Today is just not the day, honey. It is just not happening. So give me a second here. I got to bring something else up. I need 2 more people to join. I need 2 more people. Come on, y'all. It's 310 people in the chat. Go ahead and join.
you.